This is Poison Enjoyer, the world's worst smelling Grow Castle account. For the past 2 years, I've been eroding the battlefield with voodoos, and today, I want to celebrate hitting 6.9 million waves. Originally, I was gonna make this video at around 5 million waves, but that kinda never came to fruition. To quickly go over the rules for the account, only poison element damage is allowed to be used in most of the game's game modes, excluding Hell mode, because otherwise you just wouldn't be able to do Hell mode properly. All heroes that aren't poison need to be at level 10k, otherwise I'm not allowed to use them in waving or anywhere else. Static Orb is actually fine on any hero, it doesn't really matter. Taunt archers are only allowed to deal poison damage with their poison bow, otherwise I just can't use them. Dark Elf is actually allowed, but only for IC, so I can in fact level her, but I'm not allowed to use her in waving or, I'm just not allowed to use her in waving, pretty much. There is actually some history to this build since I started 2 years ago, and back then Succubus didn't receive her rework yet, so the build used to be really different. I was mostly running poison summons. I'll have some footage in the background to actually show that. Whatever I can still find on my hard drive, that is. And there was actually no real air damager in the build except for flying orcs. That build actually managed to get all the way to DH3 with free auto battle. And eventually I swapped over to DH2 Gold Auto Battle, which was pretty hard to set up, but actually kind of worked, and I was on my way to DH3 Gap. And then at some point the Succubus rework just kind of dropped, and that immediately got me up to DH3 Gap, which was pretty incredible. And then I just kind of kept going with that for a while. Back then, I actually refused to use the Dark or Deep Assassin because I kind of thought it would make the game too easy and it's kind of bullshit, but eventually I kind of caved in. And ever since then, I'm DH4 and it runs pretty well overall. So how does this build actually work? I run Deep Assassin, which gives all monsters that are debuffed by Deep Assassin a 100% chance to be crit, which I abuse that with Voodoo. So I just run as many damage lines on Voodoo as possible with no crit chance whatsoever. Really get the most damage possible. The goal here is to just one-hit the entire screen and be done with it. And that's the same reason as to why I'm running a bunch of gold bonus runes on here. Because it's if you're deleting the entire screen, it's gonna make a lot of gold. And I usually get a little bit less than 1 billion profit per wave, but sometimes I also hit 1 billion profit. It's overall quite a bit of gold, even with my little bit imperfect items, but I'll fix that eventually. As for the other heroes in the build, Goblin is here to just do a CC thing, and yeah, he does that really well. The stun is very, very good, because everything that's stunned gets 15% more damage, and Voodoo really loves to take advantage of that. Dark Ice Wizard is in here for the same reason, to just stall the blimp, so it doesn't do that much damage to the castle. Freeze Grant mobs with double proc, actually. So Dark Ice Wizard actually procs before Voodoo does his Cloud, which means everything takes even more damage. So Dark Ice Wizard actually applies a slow with a 50% chance, and this basically guaranteed. So basically, I'm using every single more damage node in the skill tree to really get the most damage out of Voodoo. As for Deep Assassin, I just have him set up so he syncs up with Voodoo in terms of cooldown, and I run a stun chance line and a slow line. Ideally, I'd have another stun chance here, but after over 340k bone, I still do not have a single double stun slow accessory, which is really unfortunate. Instead, the game just keeps on gifting me double stun slow hammers, which are completely useless to me, except for this case, and for a little bit of hell mode. As for DBM, he's just kinda here to knock stuff back, and to deal damage with Static Orb. I used to run slingers on static, but with slingers occasionally dying to the cannon, it made the waves a little bit unstable. And so overall, Goblin was just a better choice here. Once I got the skill points to actually run this. This is the skill tree, by the way. It's fairly normal, just kind of what you'd expect from this. Actually run like meteor nodes here for Worm, because this does a decent little chunk of damage. Not really too substantial, but it does help a bit, especially since you can run Worm at a low ratio, and he does decent damage with that. In terms of the poison tree, for waving at least, you only want like fast poison, completely ignore this, otherwise boss kills get a lot slower, which is not ideal. So yeah, this is just kind of the average skill tree for this build. Ideally, I'd have a leech node for my leaders as well. But other than that, this is basically as good as it's gonna get. So all the other heroes basically explain themselves here. You've got all the Gab heroes, you've got Bishop to boost Sarah damage and give everyone a little bit of attack speed. Since there aren't very many good poison damage dealers, I kind of just have to buff the ones I do have as much as I can. So that's why I use Bishop and not like a Dorothy or anything, because this just makes the fastest boss kills happen. As for like items on my other heroes, I run just a shitload of boss damage on both of my other DPS, because you don't need wave damage when you have Voodoo clearing the whole screen, so I can just fully concentrate on deleting the bosses instantly. As for Pure Wizard, I have a slightly below 6-second cooldown with 1 DC DIQ item. My staff is just pretty good. Here is my treasure setup, which is just Gold Bar, Golden Heart, and Horn. I never really take Horn off anymore. If I ever need to like do a big push season, I would throw in Power Glove, which actually increases my waves per hour a little bit. And if you're curious about what the GP of this whole build is right now, it's slightly below 15 and basically sustains itself because of Voodoo. In terms of E-lines for this build, I just run as many cooldown E's as I can until I hit the limit, and for the rest I just throw in damage E's, bonus gold E, and whatever else I can find. Few colony gold E's, which I just happen to have a lot of them lying around with good lines. Unfortunately, nothing more useful, which is kinda sad. As for like DH5, this is surprisingly enough possible with this build, but I'm not quite there yet. I will need at least 16.5 GP, otherwise this will just not run at all. Unless I get a DCDIQ staff, which is not going to happen. That's kind of it for the account at the moment. I might do another video in the future showcasing more progress, but for now this is kind of where everything's at. So, and with that, I'm gonna say thank you for watching the video, and I hope you have a great day.